It's Jim Norton with a segment we call Jim Norton Uninvited Guest. Jim!
Thank you. Thanks, everybody. How are you? You know, it's funny. I wasn't too sure what I was going to talk about tonight. And then earlier this week, I found myself in a very weird argument with a guy. It never ceases to amaze me what men can argue with each other about. It could be anything from political ideologies to, hey, that measurement doesn't count. You push the ruler too far into your stomach. I didn't expect that applause. Apparently, I'm not the only guy who's ever lost a bet pulling that trick. No, it was such a stupid argument. We were fighting over whether or not fishing should be considered a sport. Now, he was adamant, yes, it's a sport. And I'm like, dude, come on, you put on rubber pants and stand neck deep in the lake. You can't classify something as a sport if other people don't notice when you're urinating while you do it. And an important thing to remember, I think, is for something to be a sport, don't all parties involved have to be aware that they're participating in a sporting event? Fish have no idea. They didn't join up for the team. They don't know they're in the playoffs. They're hungry. Picture yourself, one day you sit down at a diner, you take a bite out of your cheesecake, and then suddenly you're yanked violently through the diner window by King Kong holding a Bud Light. And this is when we started to get kind of confrontational and passive-aggressive, because he's like, well, you know, it's not a mindless activity. Because I said, dude, it's stupid and it's mindless. He goes, no, it's not mindless. He's like, when you're fly fishing, you're skipping the lure across the water. You're fooling the fish into thinking it's an insect. I'm like, that's exactly what I'm saying. You're fooling the fish. How good do you really feel about that? It's like outfoxing a shrub. It's like, what else do you do when you need to feel better about yourself? Do you foot race a slug through salt or play Sudoku against an orangutan? It's a fish, you idiot. Fish are morons. You ever catch a fish staring at you from inside the tank? Look at that face. Yeah, I know. Oh, it's adorable. I love it too. But that's not the face of a creature who contemplates the mysteries of life. You could own a fish for 10 years, and his expression wouldn't change if he saw you reading a book or being murdered with a hammer. And this is when the guy really started to get like angry, because he's like, no, you're not competing against the fish. You're competing against other fishermen. I'm like, well, if that's the case, just leave the fish out of it. How about you and the other idiot just stand across the pond and try to hook each other's eyes? That's a sport. I would literally watch that for hours. You hook the eye, it's 10 points. Maybe the thumb webbing is 15. And you play till one man has 100 or somebody snags a testicle. Now, the worst form of fishing I've ever seen is something called noodling. You ever hear of noodling? No, all right, well, that's good. It's an actual thing they do. They do it like in the swamplands and in the Ozark, and it's a form of catfishing where these lunatics will walk into muddy water and they take their fist and they jam it into a mud hole under the water, and they wait for a catfish to sink his teeth around their forearm, and then they pull the fish out and go, ta-da! That's noodling. There's a giant fish biting this man, and I can't decide who won. It's like, how do we know that 5 seconds after that fish was taken, the fish didn't just drag him under the water and start bragging that he caught a hillbilly? And my final point, this is really further proof that fish are lovable, but they're just stupid. I was watching a special on ice fishing, and what ice fishermen will do is they cut a hole in the ice, and they lower their line, and they wait for the fish to take the bait, and then they just kind of reach down through the hole and pull the fish up out of the hole. Now, as a fish, how stupid are you? You spend the whole winter under the ice. How does it not strike you as odd that one day a perfect circle just appears and delicious treats are dropped through it? Look, I love delicious treats as much as anybody, but I'd be highly suspicious if this ceiling opened up and Megan Fox's ass fell through it. Although, to be honest, I'd probably take a bite. Thanks a lot, everybody.
Uninvited guest, Jim Norton for Bass Pro Shops, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be right back with our Monopoly McDonald's $1 Million Dice Roll with Craig Grunberg right after this.